Hi folks, I'm Sean McCormick and welcome to the channel. So we're starting off this with a new series looking at Lightroom 10. So this is going to be basic, and it's also just going to start from the very beginning. So we're starting with a blank catalog and going from there. So jumping in straight away, here we have a blank catalog, and what I should do is make this full screen to hide menus and stuff like that for now. When you start Lightroom for the very first time, this is what you're presented with. You literally have nothing, and you've got a big suggestion here to click the import button to begin. And we are going to start with an import, but we're not going to go through the import process just yet. I'm going to do that as a separate video. So what we do now here is going to be super basic for that. We're not going to really introduce that too much. So what I am going to do is I am going to click the import button, and it will bring up a browser to select stuff to bring in. So I'm actually going to grab something on my disk rather than stuff from files which are ready to go. I'm going to users, desktop, and on my desktop I have lots of things. Oh, and I'm just on a new thing. I've only just installed this OS, so it's giving me lots of grief and asking me do I want to allow Lightroom to use my desktop and stuff like that. So this is a folder of images that was shot the other day. So what's going to happen is it's going to start to basically build previews. But here's the thing, right? You don't have to wait for the previews to be built to be able to import. Okay, straight up. So I'm just going to click. I'm going to use add here. So it's going to add. What add does is leaves it here and brings it in. So I'm just going to literally click import, and it will start to bring them in. And then what it does is we can see here that it adds the drive. And so it's letting us know with these just how much is left. So there's 0.1. And again, this is something that comes up. Enable address lookup is something I would just turn on. It just means if there's GPS involved, it can go back and get the address from there. So yeah, it talks about your map provider. And so you get this also telling you stuff that address lookup is on. And this also will talk about sync and stuff like that as well. But we don't need to worry about any of that stuff for now. We're literally just going to let these files come in, because what we're doing is we are going to look around the UI and just discuss where everything is and just talk about the whole layout and just getting around Lightroom itself. That is what this one is about. Now what happens when you do the import is that it starts to generate previews, and these little dots here, 3 dots, means that it's creating a preview. So that means that file is not really ready yet. So there's a couple of different views that you have inside Lightroom for viewing your images. And when you come in first, you are inside the library. Okay, so we click up here. These little disclosure triangles open and close things. All right, so when we have all 4 sides open, and we're at the smallest size, and if we press tab, it gets rid of the sidebars, and shift tab gets rid of everything. Okay, just to let you know that. So I've just toggled them there. At the top here, we have the module picker, which is our different modules that do different things. In library, we manage our files. In develop, we edit the specific individual files. And of course, you can sync these to other files so that other files have been updated at the same time, but you can only view one image at a time. You have the map module where you can do your own GPS, add things to the map and stuff that already has GPS information built in, like phone photos and drone photos, and they will automatically be placed on the map. And then we have book for creating books, blur books or PDF books, and they're kind of limited in the size they can be, but there's a reasonable amount of good options for customizable layouts. Slideshow creates slideshows, pretty obviously. Print is for actually printing yourself mostly, but you can create layouts for that can be exported and then used in books if you wanted. And you have web. And then you have this little sync option, which lets you know what's happening if you're using any of the Lightroom mobile features. And this is not a dedicated mobile-based app like Lightroom is. This is Lightroom Classic, and it is it's the original version that is definitely way more powerful and way more features. The other thing is that when you've large libraries, using a program like Lightroom, the online version, your files are stored online, and you're paying per terabyte and to have stuff online. So I mean, I've got like 500,000 files in my main catalog, and I'm currently running stuff on a 24 terabyte drive with at least 12 terabytes used, and so I wouldn't like to be paying $120 a month just to have my files online. So that's why I'm using Classic partially. The power, of course, is the other thing as well. Okay, so those are the modules, but we're looking basically in library for now because we're looking at layouts. Okay, so the view we're in here is called grid view for obvious reasons. It looks like a grid. Okay, so we have the film strip here. That's actually not fully properly open there. So let me just make sure that it's clicked in place. We should be able to see. Let me just press T for toolbar. Okay, yeah, there we go. So there's a toolbar on the bottom. I think the toolbar is visible by default, so it shouldn't really have been off there. I may have had it off for something else earlier. So this toolbar has lots of things you can do in it, but the things we're looking at here is the different views. Okay, so this we have is grid view. Next we have loop view. Okay, so loop view is the single image view. All right, and what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to close down these. You can actually do these with F5 and F6. I think it's F5 and F6. That's F6 and that's F5. Yeah, so F5 and F6 does that. And so that is our loop view, which is kind of the single image view. But if you're in grid, if you double click on an image, it will go to loop view as well. With your shortcut keys as well, G for grid and E for loop. Loop is L-O-U-P-E, so it's the E on the end. Why not L? Wouldn't L make more sense? Well, the reason why is that they already had L assigned to something else, which is lights out and lights dim. So that's L. So lights dim is the first one, and it sets it to 80%. You can actually set this in preferences, but that's something we'll cover again. And then lights out is, it just basically blanks out the interface. So if we had that shift tab thing going on where we got rid of everything, we can see that our view is much bigger. All right, so these are important. It's good to have shortcuts because it makes your life faster. Okay, and then pressing L again will turn it off. So it's a toggleable is what they call it. So it goes through different phases. And when you turn something on and off, you can toggle it on and off. So the same key will undo what you've just done. Basically, that's what a toggle means. Right, so again, I'm going to go to grid for a second. The next view that we have is compare view, and we can do that by having two images selected. If you don't have two images selected, it will automatically select the next one, but let's select two different images and click on this. And if we let it hover over it, we'll see the shortcut as well, which is compare view. Right, and that will allow you to compare two images. So this image here is the selected image, and this here is the image we're comparing it to. And both of them have the same dirt on them. So there we go. And then using the arrow keys, it will now progressively go to other images. All right, so let's say you prefer this image and you want this image to now become the select. You come down here to these little shortcuts here, which are cool, and you can swap them, and then you can make select. All right, so now that's now the select, and then we can go on with the other ones for making comparisons. I don't particularly use the compare view myself, but I'm letting you know that it's there. So again, G for grid to go back, and I'm going to show you another view where I've got, just going to select those images there. So there's a bunch of images that are selected. We get this next view, which is the survey view. So in survey view, you're able to select and view quite a number of images. This is a very important view, in my opinion, for making selections, because you're able to compare a number of images against each other and make selections. We will cover the process of making selections at another time, just to know that it can be done in this view. The final view here, which I don't really want to go into too much now, is people view. When you click on this, it engages the face recognition stuff, and because the reason I'm not doing it is there's no people in this, and I don't want to trigger it for that. And when we do triggers, let's trigger because it's the first time we're going to do this for this catalog, right? So it'll say welcome to people view, and basically start finding faces in the entire catalog. Only find faces as needed. Generally speaking, only find faces as needed, because if you did do this and you've got a large catalog, it will take quite a while and will slow you down your catalog quite a fair bit. All right, so only find faces as needed. This comes up and it tells you that face detection is turned off. All right, it's just letting you know that it's on. All right, so I am going to jump back here, and now it's going through the catalog there with that. So right, so those are the views. All right, so let me talk about what's going on around the sides here as well. So I've shift tab then to bring the stuff back up. So you have the left panel and you have the right panel. Generally speaking, the left panel in all modules is about related settings, and it will have the collections in there, which we will come to in a minute. On the right hand side, you have the nitty gritty, the tools themselves that are applied for that particular module. And that's where you do stuff. This is where you organize stuff, generally speaking. In develop, then we see this. You will have things like history, presets, and snapshots, and then you have the individual settings. I have no photos selected, so that's why these are grayed out. We're not going to go to the rest and the kind of output and map modules. They're something we will cover separately. The two most important modules, easily by a long shot, where you will spend probably 90% of your time, are between library and develop. Okay? So, important shortcuts that you need for this. Okay? G for grid, which we've already discussed. E for loop. We have C for compare, which is probably less important. N for that survey view. We've only 2 images selected, so if I command click or control click in the film strip, which is the bottom here, that will add to that. So we can add a few more images there in our survey view and they will show up. We have people view, which I'm not going to jump to there now. We have D for develop, which will bring us to the develop module. So those are some of the more important ones. We also had tab and shift tab. Okay. Those are really important for interface, and the other one we mentioned was L for lights out, for getting the UI out of our way. And the last one, I think, in that selection, which we did mention because it was missing at the beginning, was T for toolbar. Now, we are currently inside develop, but if we come here, we can see here that they're not the only things that we can have turned on here. We have all of this other stuff here, which is currently turned off. So if we want to see the flagging inside there, we can have our flags. We can have our rating, which are our stars, basically. Our labels. Navigation, so there's there arrows to bring it backwards and forwards. You can go for zoom and a grid overlay to turn it on and off. All right. So they're kind of important. Now, I'm going to do E as well. The reason I'm doing E is because I want to come back here and show that these are also available inside of the library as well. Okay. Now, the thing about toolbar is the toolbar is off now in library, and if we press D for develop, we can see that it's on inside develop. Notice the way the side panels are gone. So what we do in each module is for that module. Okay, so if the toolbar is on, or if your panels are open in a particular configuration, that gets remembered each time you change. So if I go back to library by pressing E for loop, we can see that we have our side panels turned on. All right. So that is kind of a basic look at what's going on with some of the stuff in there. Now, just very quickly on the sides here, because I don't want this video to be too long, is we have our catalog panel, which is where we have things about the actual catalog itself. So we can see how many photographs are in it, how many synced photographs. So those are photographs that have been put inside collections, and then the collection has been turned on to sync online. Even with the very basic package, you get 20 gigabytes online, which doesn't sound like a lot, but you're using smart previews inside Lightroom, which again we will explain. But there are also older videos about it on the channel where the stuff still applies. It just shows you what's up online. You've got a collection called a quick collection, which allows you to basically collect images together fast, just to get random bunches of images together that you want for stuff, rather than have to create a specific collection and then add to that. So we see this little plus. That's because the quick collection is actually a special target collection, but you can create named collections and make them a target collection, so stuff gets added to that rather than to the quick collection. So folders is where you have the physical folders that are physically on the drive, and you can only have an image essentially in one folder. Now you can create a duplicate image outside Lightroom, and then you can choose to import them if you want, but generally speaking, folders, you only have one image in one folder, and if you want to have the same image in multiple places in Lightroom, then you use collections. So collections are basically like virtual folders. So if I want to make a collection here, let's say I have these images here selected, and so I come to here to collection, I go add collection, I go create collection, I'm just going to go kitesurf. And we can see here that we have included selected photos, and this thing where I talked about set as target collection. If I click this, so watch here, see this plus, and I'm just going to make sure that they're going to click on. There we go. So we can see that the plus has jumped here. We now have those images, and we are looking at the collection itself. Now, if I want to go back to the folder, obviously I have only one folder, and I can just click there. But if you have multiple folders, you can right click and you can go go to folder and library, and that brings up this. So let's say I select another image here and I want to add this to the kitesurf collection. I just use the shortcut key B. So you can see that's now added, and that went from 5 to 6. So collections are virtual collections of images, like albums basically. All right, published services is just for stuff like Flickr and stuff like that, which we'll talk about again, for automatically getting stuff up there. And again, on this side here, we have quick develop, which allows us to do some very, very fast edits over multiple images. And our relative edits, again, something to discuss more in detail. Keywording is where you can add tags that relate to the images to describe what's happening in the images to make them easier to search for. The keyword list is the list of all the keywords that are actually inside the library, and because this is brand new and we didn't add any in import, and there's none. And then we have metadata, so that covers things like the EXIF, which is the camera information, and there's also information you can add yourself, like the IPTC, which is what it's called, and location information. You can have large caption, and what I found very handy to have for a long time was just quick describe, which is very, very basic information as well. Now, I did shoot this particular thing on an X-T4, and on the X-T4 at the time I had the app on in my phone, so it actually pulled GPS data, from my phone. So in actual fact, if we do go to map, it will actually show this on the map, but we will do that another time. And then down the bottom, the comment section on the bottom is if you are synced, or if you are using some of those published services. If somebody leaves a comment or a like, they will show up in this section here. So folks, that is kind of an introduction to the layout and the stuff that you do inside Lightroom for getting around. It's really important to learn those shortcuts because they are what speed up your workflow. They are what make you spend less time on the computer, or failing spending less time on the computer. It means you can spend more time editing the photo or editing more photos than just actually physically getting around and doing the management stuff. So folks, if you found it useful, please do give the video a like and share it with your friends, okay? Thank you for watching, and do subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.